Sometimes I like to work on something that's a little bit different, like abstract. So here you see I have micron pens, a cheap brush, throwaway brush, a pilot marker pen. And so here I'm going to use some wash, a little bit of the watercolor wash. And I'm just going to explore a little bit. And I'm going to use that brush. You see how that brush just lays down these striations? So I'm just laying down those striations and just letting it happen. I'm not too concerned right now. I just want to explore and see and possibilities by just moving the paint around. And the color that you see right now is going to dry a little bit lighter, but here, like with watercolor, I like to float it around on the page. The paper that I'm using is Arches. It, it works with watercolor very nicely. But you see, I'm still trying to get some kind of those striations. I'm really trying to work those striations in the image. So this is why I'm just kind of like playing around, splashing it around, and just seeing kind of some of the things that are happening. Here I'm just using my hair dryer. I use the hair dryer often just to speed up the process, the drying process. So now I'm going to use the Pilot brush pen. And I like it because you can see how the lines can go down thick and thin. And keep using it. I can get like kind of concave forms by pressing down on the brush and then lifting on the brush and movement. So kind of helps it to gather the brush and the lines. I like it. It's like writing here, just kind of like moving the line, using line weight. One of the things I emphasize in my drawing class is the use of line weight. Use line to show like cross patterns or movement across the page. There's so many exciting things that you can do with line. So I feel as though we should really take advantage of it. Normally I do like figurative paintings, but a lot of times I'll just sit down and try playing around with just like with abstract imagery and exploring and seeing what kinds of things can happen. You see here, I start out with the loose wash, but now I'm intentionally kind of like laying out lines and patterns and form, working with form. Back to the old big brush. So after it dried a little bit, I just moved the pigment around, and just kind of let it happen. And just pushing the water around. The watercolor, it's like a dance, you put it down and then move the paper around and allow happy things to happen. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just let it happen. Don't be afraid. So here I'm just texture, using the tip of that brush with the texture. Remember, this paint is going to dry lighter than what you see right now. But intentionally like stippling with the brush, putting down patterns with the brush, and just really exploring with it and just seeing what kinds of things will happen. Let's see here. So you can see how it lightened as it dries. And now I'm going back in with a micron and using hatch lines, looking at some of the forms that were created with just I call it the happy accidents. So I'm going back in here with some some hatch lines basically. And some of these hatch lines are concave, and then some of the hatch lines will be convex, depending on the orientation of the line stroke. So here I'm using a Noodler's flex tip pen, and that allows, it's a little, I like it in a lot of respects to the microns. Microns give you a consistent line. The flex tip pen gives you variations of the line. So I can press down on the pen, I can get a thick and thin line, which is one of my favorites. So either I'm going to do that with a brush, or I can do it with a fountain pen. So in this case here, like a lot of the fountain pens that I like to draw with have flex tips to them. I have a nice pen by Pilot. It's called the Fountain. It's called the Falcon, and it has a very nice flexible tip to it. But the Noodler's pens you can get at a very reasonable price, and you can get a lot of nice line work with them. Even if you just want to write, even if you just want to use them for writing, they're very nice pens. So I'm just putting in a few lines here just to enhance the line weight lines that I put in earlier. They emphasize those things. So sometimes you just need to take your time, and the process of drawing is enjoyable in and of itself. If you're watching me do it, but if you were doing it yourself, you can just enjoy the process of doing this. This is something that you can do and just put your mind into it. A lot of people that I work with like the process because they find that it's a place where they can just kind of like not completely zone out, but just enjoy a time of peace while they work on the drawing. I could just as well, what I'm doing here, work on a portrait or something like that. So the same kind of line work that I'm doing here with something that's abstract, it's the same type of thing that I would do if I was doing a figurative drawing. It's just something else. Probably what I'm doing is indirectly, or what I would do if I were drawing something else in a different way. What I'm doing right now can be carried over to other types of drawings. But here, doing it here, there's no fear or an intimidation. You just kind of like move and feel free with the drawing. So you're seeing me working in actually pretty much real time. Just kind of moving the pen around and just allowing, again, just kind of working the forms. It's almost like, okay, so here I'm not just using like straight hatched lines. I'm using hatched lines that move with a form that I'm seeing. And I just let it happen. I go from thin, thick lines. I do what we call implied lines. So actually the best I can say is where I stop the line, going cross contour also gives you another line, which is an implied line. So you don't always have to actually draw a line, but you can just stop with the hatch lines to create a implied line. Or you can continue with the development of the line work. So now I'm doing a lot of what I call the implied line. I'm probably going to have to make a video just to explain what I mean about implied line and applied line. Just something maybe separate so you can see what I'm talking about. Because as I'm doing it, I'm talking about it, but it's probably better to see it isolated. Now I just picked up a white pen. It's a white gel pen, so I can put down some white hatch lines. Just to try to give us the abstract a little bit of change. So now we have black lines and we have white lines. And some of the white lines will move out into the space, right out into that white space. Still using implied line as I'm drawing. Sometimes when I'm working, I'm not just working flat. I'm working on a flat surface, but I'm also thinking as like a sculptor. So I'm thinking, how can I work the paper so that it has like a three-dimensional feel to it by the line work that's being done. And go back into it with the pen again. And do some mark making. Maybe I should just say that this is basically a lot of different types of mark making. A lot of hatch line mark making. Hatch lines and cross hatch lines. Now I'm picking up the watercolor brush again, and what's nice about the watercolor brush, just as you're capable of doing with the Pilot pen, now I can go with more of a gray, not a complete black, but like a value of a dark, and still use line weight and still use rhythm and line, because line and pattern can also create a poetry, like a rhythm, movement. So an artist often will use things that create like this rhythm and pausing and spacing. And so like the pausing and spacing, because if everything was the same, it wouldn't give you that rhythm. So some of the things that you see me do here with the brush is some of the exercises that you should do on your own, just kind of like playing around with the brush to see what it can do. And then it will become automatic when you try it, when you're doing it for something, another purpose. You can grab the brush and it'll just kind of be automatic. I'm going back in with the brush to do some more stippling. The paper that I'm using, I mentioned that it was Arches paper, but it's also hot press paper. So it's smooth, and it allows for your brush work to show even more so than a cold press paper. And it's excellent for lines, for drawing with pen. It's 100% cotton paper, and it has nice sizing in it, so it responds well to the medium, to all the medium that I'm using right now. It works well with that. Now I'll explain, I haven't done this before. I'm just kind of like exploring now. This is the first time that I've actually done anything like this particular one. And that's the exciting thing about painting. You know, we just kind of like, you don't really go into it with a pre-plan. And oftentimes, I'm a planner, and a lot of times I'll plan out a work, I'll plan out a painting, I know where I'm going. But here I don't. I'm just kind of letting things happen. And so, just allowing things to happen, this also is similar to more like jazz music. Because you have to be spontaneous, you have to listen and watch and respond to marks that are being done, and then respond to them. So what I just did is sometimes I'll put down water and then I'll put paint into the water. It happens so quick. That's why I had to tell you, sometimes I might do like a light wash and go into it and then put like a paint into it. Also, when you're moving the brush, try moving the brush and turning the brush too at the same time. It'll become easy. So I'm going back into with the wet area and just kind of allowing some more of the pigment to go into that water. One thing about watercolor, that paint wants to go where the water is. So you can really use the water, especially if you want to start, you have something that is really exact and you want to keep those lines in that area. You can go pretty light and then go back in and just drop pigment into those lines, and they'll spread out. Going back in, I'm using like a white watercolor. I saw something, I said, oh, what would it be like if I were to break up some of those lines across the lines? So I went in with some white pigment. These lines can be, you can make marks, you can make them dash lines. Oh, I noticed that the lines didn't cover well, so I just went over it again with a second coat of the white watercolor. Probably like gouache white works well for doing this. The crazy thing is that sometimes more stuff, more lines, more action, and kind of makes things exciting. And layering, kind of like layering. So now I'm laying white stipple lines. I had black stipple lines, now I'm using white stipple lines, or dots, I'm sorry. So stippling is basically dots. And it's easy. Stipples are easy with a brush. With the pen, oftentimes I see students using the pen and they're pecking away like this, a woodpecker. And you really don't have to do that. Now I'm going to put on some of the little finishing touches. I'm using the pen to work on those little small areas. And I'm just taking my time and enjoying the process. Sometimes that's all we do. We enjoy the process of making marks, putting down lines, and just enjoying this, putting in more a little more of the cross hatching and hatch lines, and just working with the flow and working with the movement here. So I hope this video has been a help. I hope that it would help somebody. And pick up a pen, pick up some paper, grab a brush, just push it around a little bit and see what you can do, see what you can come up with. And just enjoy the process of making art.